Hello, my name is Chris and I make videos about food photography. If that's something you're interested in, I'd urge you to subscribe so you can follow along for more videos. Today we're talking about simplifying our compositions, keeping the props to a minimum by filling the frame when you're shooting food. If you feel like you are struggling to do large setups with a lot of props, then maybe this is a good place for you to start. I love beautiful shots of food with a perfectly curated set of props and things to make the food shine. But that type of set design and that styling takes a lot of practice and a lot of experience. There are some people who are natural at it and some people are really good at it. I am not one of those people. So I started much like this as well, concentrating on filling the frame with just the food, eliminating the need for a lot of props. If you're just getting started, that type of photography with a lot of props can be extremely intimidating. But you shouldn't let that stop you from taking beautiful pictures of food. What I recommend you do is fill the frame with whatever food you're taking a photograph of. This means you need a lot less props. Number one, the setup is much simpler and the lighting is less complicated as well. As you get more comfortable capturing images of food, where 70 to 80% of the image is the actual dish you're taking, then you can slowly begin to pull the camera back and add in props little by little as you start to expand your scene in your photo with utensils and linens and side dishes and glasses and things like that. It's a much easier way to grow your skills that way, starting a little bit at a time and kind of growing out with it. As an example for this video, I shot a baking dish full of donuts to give you an idea of what I mean. That you can still really capture beautiful Instagrammable photos using a minimal amount of props. Once that's done, we'll pop over to Lightroom, take a look at how we edit that, and guarantee and ensure that we have a lot of coverage of what we're shooting. For this shoot, I used a single continuous light with a softbox. I could have easily just done it in my kitchen next to the window, but today my kitchen was being used for Christmas cookies, so I went down to the studio. I set up a table in the middle of my studio. I placed a simple surface down, and the only props I used were a baking dish and a piece of parchment paper. The donuts I bought locally, I arranged them in the baking dish so I had what I thought was the prettiest up front, used a reflector just to bounce a little light on the side of the donuts, and took a few shots. Now let's jump into Lightroom and see what we captured. So here we are in Lightroom. So if you see in this first photo, for the most part, I'd say about 2/3 of that frame is full of what our product is, what our item was. We're going to pop in real quick, make sure the focus is good. Nice and clean, no noise. Shooting at ISO 100, so that was good. 70 millimeters on the 24 to 70 at f4 for 1/6 of a second. That's why we run a tripod. Now the first thing I always do when I come into Lightroom is I set my crop, and I want to make sure that I have the look that I want, the aspect ratio that I want before I start doing any more editing, so I can edit just for that photo. Now I'll go down here, I'm going to pick 4:5, the traditional typical Instagram ratio. So that's what we'll use. And you can already see we've already cut off this part up top and this part on the bottom. And what that does is it puts more of the focus on the center. I don't have to worry too much about any setting or styling on the outside of this frame, because all I'm looking at right now is what's right here. And I'm going to adjust this a little bit just so I can bring this donut that's in focus right here on this bottom third. So I like where that's at. I may actually punch in just a little bit farther, keeping that same aspect ratio because it is locked over here, and putting it right there. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. So that is the composition that I like. We've filled the frame. I'd say 75% of this frame is just the donuts. The other 25% roughly is going to be just kind of what's on the outside, just holding the donuts. You know, we took the paper, we crumpled it up a little bit just to add texture. You know, we talked about in the last video how adding texture to the food and the photo really works for food photography. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of editing on this one. Bump the contrast ever so slightly on that. Highlights, because it's a very high key image, we're going to pull those down a touch. Just a touch. Shadows, we don't want to make it too dark. Whites, we want to make sure they're nice and crisp. And the blacks are good. We don't have much in the way of loss of detail. Texture, I like to do just a little bit of texture to help this all pop what's in focus. A touch of clarity. A skosh of dehaze. And then we're going to do, just for a simple edit, we're going to up the vibrance a little bit. And the saturation just a touch. Now looking at this, are we happy with it? It's a very contrasty image. You've got the dark donuts, the chocolate donuts, and the white back. Now a lot of the reason I chose the white and the high key area and the high key nature of this photo was so that you could see that filling the frame does a lot more. It's a lot easier than having to build a whole giant setup, which we can do in the future. It takes time, but as we're beginning and getting used to food photography, you know, just filling the frame with the food is an easy way to get started, just shooting food. From there, you want to start building things out, and you'll start telling more of a story about the food. That's what happens when you start building more elaborate presentations for food and sets for food. But for right now, we're not telling a story. You know, we're just saying it's Christmas. Here's some chocolate Christmas donuts. Aren't they beautiful? Wouldn't you like to have one? Here you go. So you can see how simplifying your props really still can lead to a really pretty photo. The whole point of filling the frame is to eliminate the need for a lot of props and a lot of setup that some people are just not comfortable with, and make it as easy as possible. I hope this helps a little, and I hope you feel like you've learned something. If you did, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button. That lets me know that the content I'm providing is helping you guys out, as well as letting YouTube know that somebody else may want to watch this video as well. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe, and if you're celebrating this time of year, then happy holidays. Have a safe and happy new year, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.